Hi, everybody. Hi. Today is Saturday, November 7th, 2020, for those of you who are not watching this live. And it's been about 6 hours. It's been about 6 hours since my home state finally counted all of their votes. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are headed to the White House. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about politics. I think everybody who's watching live, I know, and I feel comfortable, but, I don't know who you are. I don't know how you feel about the election. So I'm just going to say that I'm really happy and that my morning started with a 5K for an organization that my daughter is part of. It's called Girls on the Run, and it's about female empowerment. And so I ran a 5K with my 8-year-old daughter this morning, and it was all about having fun and being with women. And I thought that was the highlight of my day. And then my wonderful employee, Lucas, texted me and said, "Hey, it looks like your home state did it." And, then I drove down Willie Street and fireworks were going off at whatever time it was, like 10:30 in the morning. So I'm in a great mood. So here we go. I'm so happy to see like any of you watching live. Quite honestly, I had a moment a few hours ago where I was at the shop drinking champagne with my husband and some of our staff. And I said, "Do you think anybody's going to tune in this afternoon, or is everybody just going to be so like out and about and celebrating?" So thank you for this wonderful hour. We'll have it be celebratory, even though it's not bubbles. If you don't have bubbles, table wine's running out. I thought I had more than enough bubbles to get us through, but I think over the course of the week, people kind of kept buying and thinking tonight's the night that it's going to happen. So today's the day. And thank you. I'm glad that this is your celebration. I'm so glad. That means a lot to me. So if you are not familiar with how classes work, we use the chat a lot. Please chat it up. This recording lives on forever, so you can come back and revisit this at any time if you want. If any of the slides pass you by too quickly, feel free to tell me and I can happily go back. We're going to taste 3 different Grenaches today and talk about kind of the history of Grenache and kind of what you can expect throughout the wine world. So I think that's all of my housekeeping stuff. So let's get into it, everybody. So some fundamental information, just kind of what you can expect today and always when you're drinking Grenache. Grenache is super fruit forward. So it can be all sorts of things. Raspberry, strawberry, cherry. You'll see there, I don't always include this information, but the modifiers that you can use when talking about the fruit with Grenache really vary. So it can be tart fruit, candied. Candied gets used with Grenache, and that doesn't necessarily mean sweet. You don't have to get yourself all concerned about sweet. Ripe, baked. So all of those words kind of come into play. Spice is definitely a big one. Depending on how it's aged, oak flavors will come out or aromas will come out. And then like herby, earthy, floral, all of those things are fair game. So it's a big variety of aromas and flavors. So if as we're tasting, you're thinking, "I'm not quite sure what that is," chat it up. And often people will kind of help each other out with ideas of what they're smelling and tasting, but I can also always come back to this slide. So you don't have to like memorize this right now. General characteristics. Grenache is one of those lovely medium grapes. It's medium in body, maybe medium to full, but it's, relatively in that middle of the spectrum. It's got medium acidity. It has medium tannins. That does not mean that every single Grenache you're ever going to taste is going to meet all 3 of those things. That's talking about broad general characteristics. So today I specifically chose one that is going to be a little bit more tannic, so we can kind of see what that tastes like and feels like in your mouth for you. Grenaches are good for aging. They tend to be, so Grenache really only grows well in warm places. It takes a very long time for it to ripen. So it needs a place that doesn't start to get cool in September. It needs a place that stays warm longer. So because of that, as it ripens for that length of time, it does have more sugar in it, therefore leading to a higher alcohol content. So often Grenache kind of starts in like the high 13% range and can even go up from there. It's very, very rare to see a Grenache that's like 12% or 10% or something like that. That would be really weird. So because of that high alcohol content, it ages quite well. So if you're looking for something maybe that you want to kind of see how it evolves over a few years, Grenache can be a good one to try. Food pairing ideas that I have here are, again, kind of for the broad spectrum of Grenache. It goes well with herbs and spices because it tastes like herbs and spices. So it goes well with curries, with spiced rub duck, spiced rub venison, spiced rub salmon, all those kinds of things. And Grenache and pork also just pair beautifully together, generally speaking. So the other thing I want to mention about general characteristics before we go to Australia, let's not go to Australia just yet. One other thing to know about Grenache, that it goes by a lot of different names. So I refer to it as Grenache, which is what the French call it and what the majority of the wine world calls it. It's how you're going to see it labeled most often. In Spain, they call it Garnatxa. So that is the same grape, if you've ever wondered. It is the exact same grape. It's just the Spanish word for Grenache. There are parts of little pockets in Italy where they have different names for it. So just like a heads up, I just want you to know that. So if you ever see a wine label and you're kind of a little confused or wondering what it is, it could just be another name for Grenache. Questions about fundamental stuff before we get underway? I'm sure everyone's eager to start drinking today. And seeing the notes that you're all like so happy to celebrate with me. Thank you. I'm so happy to celebrate with all of you. It's my pleasure to be with you guys on this day. So thank you. I'm very flattered. I know some of you have been with me for those classes. I taught classes after Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, and after the most recent Supreme Court confirmation, I taught the day after, and those were like super bad, dig deep kind of days. And so it was kind of nice to get to, be happy and to be putting on lipstick, not to like gear myself up, but because I wanted to. All right, let's do it. Let's get started if there are no questions. So one thing that is different about the three wines today than any of the wine or than most of the classes that I teach when I'm talking about single varietal is that this one, the Australian, is the only one of the three that is actually 100% Grenache. We can talk about why later when we move to the second wine, but I think that this is such a beautiful example of Grenache. And I think that it's a really great place to start, because if you've not had a lot of Grenache before, this is really kind of your baseline. I see a lot of the different characteristics of this grape. So things to know about Australian Grenache. The flavors and aromas that really come through are more red fruit than black fruit. So red cherries, raspberry, strawberry, red currant, those red things, and spice. And that can mean actual like tingly spice on your tongue. That's the acidity kind of playing its trick on you, or more spiced notes. So it can be, cinnamon or cumin or just a kind of a general, I feel like I'm in a spice store kind of smell or flavor. The important regions for Grenache, McLaren Vale makes some really, really beautiful Grenaches, and Barossa Valley, which is what we're going to taste. Interestingly, Australia has some of the world's oldest Grenache vines. In early 1800s. I always mix it up if it's 1823 or 1832. In the early 1800s, this man named Busby, his last name is Busby, he went to France and brought back just an absurd amount of vines with him to Australia so that they could start growing grapes there. And he was a Francophile, which is kind of why he started there. And he was particularly in love with the Rhone Valley, which is where we will end today. And so he saw that Grenache was really important in the Rhone Valley, so he brought Grenache with him. What he also brought with him is Grenache's friend, Syrah. In Australia, they call it Shiraz, or Shiraz. So what ended up happening is that Shiraz did super well in Australia. And I think if any of you have had Australian wine, I would say probably it was Shiraz, maybe it's not the one and only Australian wine you've ever had, but that is really what kind of put Australia on the map with the rest of the world in terms of wine. So people really turned to Shiraz, kind of ignored Grenache, but then there are some really old vines of Grenache, and Yalumba has some of them. So that is what we are drinking, some of these old vine Grenache. The food pairings that I have listed there are specific to Yalumba. So I'm going to make myself big. I'm going to make the slide small, but I am going to do this. Actually, I will switch that. So you guys start drinking, start tasting, start smelling. Tell me what you're thinking or what you're getting out of this wine, what your first impressions are. And then these are the old bush vines. So I'm going to show you 3 pictures. I didn't pick these wines for this reason, but as I was looking at where these vines are grown for each of the 3 wines, the vineyards all look so different from one another. The way that the vines grow are so different. So I thought that was really unique and interesting. So I'll share them with each one. So this is not normal, I guess. If you've not been to a vineyard or seen pictures of vineyards before, bushes are not how vines are usually grown. So this technique is special to this area. So, right, they look wild, and they're really, really old, and they don't yield a lot of fruit, which is why they're kind of growing, they grow kind of this way. So what are you guys getting out of this wine? Other than joy and happiness. It tastes like Welch's grape jelly. Plenty of fruit, but the miso pairing, some spicy or savory, earthy notes. Yeah, lots of earth. Yeah. The alcohol is totally prominent, right? It is totally, totally prominent. I think you can smell it, quite honestly. This is 14.1. And I'm going to check our ABV on all of the wines. I think we're actually going to go down in ABV, ironically, which is not normally how you structure a tasting, but might be more smell than flavor with the Welch's. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that there is definitely some very prominent fruit on this. But also lots of spice and earth like you guys are picking up on. Kristen and Patty point out that it's lighter on the palate than they expected. And I think that's what's kind of lovely about Grenache. It's not as weighty as you might expect. And it can be. You can definitely get Grenaches that are very concentrated, very heavy. But when I said that, they're kind of in that medium range, it's a medium-bodied wine. So even though it is pretty high in alcohol, it doesn't have that same kind of gloppiness, that kind of viscosity that say, well, its friend Syrah has sometimes, or Zinfandel or something like that, right? So it's a fruit-forward wine that doesn't overpower you with the body. Would I say that this is low tannin? I would, yeah. And it's one of the reasons that we started here. It's a little bit higher in acid than some Grenaches, which also might play into the feeling that it's not as heavy as you expect, because it does make your mouth water. It does have some nice acidity to it. But it does not have a lot of tannin. Is anybody picking up on that kind of sensation of your mouth being super dry and, you know, needing to have a glass of water at the end? Yes. Okay. And I think that that's true. Yeah, not too much. Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're non-existent tannins, but I do think that, I mean, medium, right? Low, medium, right? Would be kind of my estimation on this. That amount of spice and acidity, as I mentioned, it is the miso pairing comes from Yalumba. They really recommend it with that. And as I was kind of sifting through what my own personal opinion of food pairing is and what, you know, the wineries say, and I thought, oh yeah, like that and ramen just would be so beautiful together. But also this and you know, meat of some kind without like that spice and that amount of acidity would be good. Sorry, pause, just a pause there. It is not that common. While there is Grenache grown in Australia, it's not that common to see it 100% on its own, which is another reason that I kind of like to feature this, because I think it's pretty cool that they're doing it. So have any of you had a GSM before? It's a blend of Grenache. I'm typing this in the notes. And Mourvedre. So GSM is, it's those three grapes in varying percentages. It's based on what winemakers in the Rhone Valley have been doing for centuries. Those are kind of the three main players in the Rhone, although there are some other grapes that get thrown in there. But the Australians really kind of marketed the idea of the GSM. They kind of coined that phrase and really went after it. Some of you are old enough that you were of a drinking age when Yellowtail really kind of hit the market. Yellowtail really changed the game for quite a while, because they did all of these single varietal wines, Shiraz and Cab and whatever, and then they did these blends and they had a GSM, and then a lot of other. Penfolds is a big one. They make some really phenomenal wine. So anyway, GSM is an Australian term that now is used around the world, but that is what it means. And so it's often where you'll use Grenache to complement Syrah, and Mourvedre kind of comes in at the end. Grenache has red fruit. I mean, it has some black fruit, but it's mostly a red fruit grape. Syrah is more a black fruit grape. Grenache has some nice spice to it, as we're seeing. And then Syrah has some kind of like meaty, more concentrated, richer flavors. So together they go really beautifully together. So that's the Australian Grenache story. It smells like a fruit roll-up on the nose. I totally get that. I totally get that. Yeah, I would not. Yes, true story. I think it smells like a fruit roll-up. And I think that it's so interesting because it's not as prominently fruity on the palate as you expect, I think. I think it smells much fruitier than it tastes. The question is how much of the spice is coming from oak aging versus from the grape itself. In my understanding of how this wine is made, they're not going after like new American oak with this wine, like in an overly extracted kind of way. So most of what we are picking up on, that spice, is more from the grape itself, less from the oak. The spice that you get from oak tends to be more either like cedar, right? Like a spicy woodsy thing, or more like vanilla and baking spices. And at least for me, what I'm picking up on is more like an actual idea of spiciness. And that is the grape, and that is also a little bit of acidity. I think I kind of glossed over it earlier, but I said that acidity kind of plays tricks on you. So acidity has kind of the same effect that something spicy has on your mouth, where your mouth kind of waters a little bit. So it often makes you think, oh, it's literally spicy, right? Not spiced. So Katie thinks it smells more like bark. But maybe that's because you were outside into the raking earlier. I think the sense memory that I had when I read the note about the fruit roll up, this is going to be, we're going to go down this rabbit hole here for a hot second, where you like would unpeel the fruit roll up, and there was like the paper and the fruit roll up. And I was actually, as I was thinking about, do I think this smells like a fruit roll up? I was like picturing that smell of both of those things. So I feel like it's like a little bit of both of that. Like, I feel like it's a little bit of the paper, like a little bit of the bark, and then a little bit of the fruit. So there you go, guys. I'm in a joyous mood. I guess I'm being kind of, I don't know, more off the cuff today. So hope you're okay with it. Questions or thoughts before we leave Australia? In addition to Yalumba, there are some winemakers who are making some really stunning Grenaches, either on their own or in blends. The one winery that comes to mind is Darnberg. I can put that. Darnberg is in McLaren Vale. In Barossa, I think maybe they have some vineyards in Barossa, but their winery is located in McLaren Vale, and they take Grenache very seriously, and they have for quite a while, and which I think is just kind of cool, like from a wine geek perspective. I just think it's like interesting when people really go all in on a grape that maybe isn't as trendy. Darnberg definitely makes Shiraz because they want to keep the lights on, but I just think it's cool when people do the thing they love or are good at, not the thing that, I don't know, is most popular. Matt wants me to know that you're feeling a little giddy over here today too. I figured if you were here with me, you knew what you were getting yourselves into. So I'm still trying to get you the information and give you a real wine class, but also, my heart is kind of bursting with joy. Bush vines seem like they would be rare. How common is it? I can't say 100% how common it is. So where, because Grenache grows in warm places, that can mean kind of desert-like places. And when I say desert-like, I don't mean like, completely drought places, but places that have sandy soil, places that could be windy or maybe mountainous. And so the bush vine, well, I'll make this large again. I was definitely like, whoa, those are big bushes. Like those are like, taller bushes than I'm used to seeing. The style of kind of these like individual little bushes of grapes for Grenache specifically, because it grows in warm places, isn't as uncommon as it would be for any other grape. So, I I don't believe that like Pinot Noir would grow like this. Sorry, I had to like think about that for a second. Like I don't believe that, there are lots of grapes that wouldn't do well growing like this, but Grenache actually does. So, okay. Far too interesting and easily drunk for a 14.1% wine. Hallelujah. Yeah, like absolutely, right? Like you look at it, it's light in color in the glass, right? We didn't actually, I have poured mine out, but if you still have a little, you couldn't look at it. Like, I won't, how about this? We're doing a blind tasting class in a couple of weeks. I promise you it will not be this Grenache, but if you wanted to be tricky, right, you could pour that, and it looks like Pinot Noir, right? It's, it has some translucency to it. It's lighter in color than you expect. It's fruity, but a little bit of spice. Oh, it makes me want to have some food. I'm just snacking and drinking. And then you're like, whoa, that's a 14.1% wine. So, or maybe possibly more. So I agree with you. It's a little dangerous. Let's keep the danger going, shall we? Should we keep rolling with our danger tone? Because we're actually going to go up in ABV and then come back down. So we're all over the map, y'all. All right, we are off to Spain. So Spain, here's what you need to know. There's a little bit of a dispute as to where Grenache comes from. But most wine researchers posit that it came from the island of Sardinia, which is off the western coast of Italy, where it's called Cannonau, confusingly, and that it was brought over to Spain, and then it flourished in Spain. There's some people who say that it is native to Spain. I've read accounts where people don't think it's actually possible that there were grapes native to Spain. So a little bit of a debate there, but either way, Spain is definitely where Grenache grew. It became kind of this grape that was grown in lots of different regions because as I've kind of been beating on the drum, it needs warmth, right? And the entire country of Spain is pretty warm, even the northern part where it's cooler, it's still pretty warm. So things to know about Spanish, I'm going to switch and call it Garnacha because we're in Spain now. So things to know about Garnacha from Spain. Definitely still noticeable fruit, but because it is warmer there, it could be red or black. Spice and possibly mineral notes. I have important regions listed here, and they really are so different. Each region is very different in style. So the difference between a Garnacha from Priorat and a Garnacha from the warm central part, they're kind of different beasts. I have Rioja listed there. Garnacha is very, very important in Rioja, even though it's not normally the primary grape of a Rioja. It's usually blended in with Tempranillo. So I kind of broke it down into two styles that I can say you can start to figure out where in Spain make this style or just kind of what you are looking for. And the two different styles are fruit forward and mineral driven. The fruit forward one is the very inexpensive, juicy, yummy, you don't have to think too hard to like it, Garnacha. If I were pouring more different wines, if I was going to pour you all 6 wines, I would pour you a fruit forward one and we would talk about it. It's not that it is not a legitimate style. It's that for at-home classes, I keep it down to 3. And I think that the mineral-driven style is one that maybe you haven't had before, one that you might not pick up for yourself. And so it's more important to me to talk about this because, we've got $10 Garnacha on the shelves at the shop that we can absolutely, get for you. So the food pairing suggestions listed here are for this specific wine or at least the mineral-driven style. So really good with cheeses, curries, even charcuterie and things like that. So as I mentioned with the Yalumba is the only 100% Grenache. So this wine is almost all Garnatxa. It is 88% Garnatxa. It is 10% Carignan and 2% Syrah. So it is still really, really all about the Garnacha, which is why I felt like it was absolutely okay to pour it for you guys. So, God, the smell on this wine, holy buckets. I love, if Jolly Rancher made an overripe strawberry flavor, we think that that's how this wine would smell. Or that's how it would smell. I love that. Ooh. How's everybody doing on the tannins there? It's been a little while since I've had this wine. This is one of the 3 vineyards that they, where the grapes for this wine come from. So you can kind of see what I was talking about earlier, where Grenache often grows in kind of sandier soil and they kind of have these little bushes, but nothing as like large as what we saw in Australia. To answer your question about why would a winemaker use only 2%? Is it noticeable? A couple different things could be at play. One thing could be with a grape like Syrah, they could be adding it for something like color. Syrah has a very dark purple hue to it. So they could honestly be like, you know what, we just want to like a little dash of Syrah to give it a little bit more body. They could be, Carignan also has, so some of the tannins here and the structure of this wine are coming from how the wine is made, but also that little bit of Carignan that's here. And they could be saying like, we want the Syrah to just mellow that out a little bit, round it out. It could also be that that's a vineyard that's primarily Carignan vines. There's some Syrah mixed in, and we picked all the grapes and we put it together. I have honestly heard both as explanations. I think it really does vary by wine. That's the kind of information that you're unlikely to get like on a website or a wine label, and it is going to come from maybe like a winemaker tasting or something like that. So that's not like information that you can just easily find. But sometimes, you know, you'll hear that, you know, because it's got like 1% of such and such. Because, I mean, we figured there's some vines growing in there, so we got to like say that it has some of that. So, what do you guys think of the wine? How is it smelling and tasting? And aren't those vines just so cool? There are other pictures on their website. They are wide enough that a horse comes in and plows it. This is very, very natural wine. So Yalumba, not so much. They are a large, conventional producer, I guess I'll say. But this wine, I'll take a moment as you're all tasting and smelling and stuff. This wine is imported by Jose Pastor Selections. You'll see that on your own bottle at home. Jose Pastor specializes in natural wines. So if you care about that kind of thing, or you find that like you tend to like that style, you just don't want extra junk in your wine, what have you, you can seek out good importers, and Jose Pastor would be one of the ones that I would strongly recommend. Okay, tannins are kind of shocking, right? Yeah, I knew what you meant, that the plants were super small, much smaller. Still trying to figure out the aromas, but holy tannins, yeah. You liked it with the sharp cheddar, but you like it better with dark chocolate. Fascinating. You like that amount of tannin with chocolate? Good for you. I'm happy for you. I love this wine. I love this wine. It's so weird. It's so unique. You know, it smells to me so floral. Like somebody has just cut roses right next to my face. Do you guys know Turkish Delights? The little kind of like gummy candy. From Turkey, they often do like a rose water one. And I am definitely getting like all the florals. But then on the palate, it's like, it's chalky minerality, right? I think this would be delicious with salami. That sounds fantastic, right? So this wine is from an area of Spain called Vinos de Madrid. It is outside of Madrid. And this is what the style in that area, what winemakers are really going for. This level of chalky tannin is something that they feel is so different from their area of Spain than the other areas of Spain. So the other kind of big mineral-driven area is Priorat and Montsant, and they are up the coast a bit from Madrid. And the soil in that area is blue slate. And so you get a minerality to it for sure, but it's more a slatey kind of minerality. Whereas in Vinos de Madrid, it does look, it's quite deserty looking. It's very, very sandy. And you saw the little, you know, the little vines there. And there's no rain. You know, there's very, very little rain in that area. And so they really find winemakers in this area are really using this to kind of separate themselves from those delicious but easy drinking $10 Garnatxas I spoke of earlier. So there are really two camps, and I think that maybe you appreciate both. I am of the school of appreciating both. I just kind of am a sucker for Grenache. I kind of like it no matter what style the winemaker makes it in, but maybe you like one or the other. I know some folks, if you know the Bernabaleva, I can put that in the notes, Bernabaleva, you know, de Navajarreros, is a wine that, I'm going to probably spell it wrong. No, I'm not. I'm going to get it right. That was a wine that I have featured in classes prior to this. And it's a place that I visited a couple of years ago. And they were kind of the first Vinos de Madrid winery that kind of came onto my radar. Yep, the bear wine. Yep, the bear wine. That's they're compatriots of those guys is why I bring it up. So if you like this is kind of similar to that. If you don't know the bear wine and you like this, maybe you want to try the bear wine sometime. Black raspberry, I like that. Yeah. So Heisley and Eric were talking about red hots and pink cotton candy, which I adore. So when I was talking about the kind of different modifiers for Grenache and how you could have tart versus candied versus ripe, this is what kind of comes to mind when I think about candied. The calling card of Grenache is a candied raspberry. Like that's what people kind of talk about when they talk about hallmarks of Grenache. That doesn't mean that every Grenache you're ever going to taste tastes like candied raspberries, but it is kind of that idea. And when I say that to folks, I can definitely sense that people are like, no, thank you. I don't want candied raspberries. That's not something I enjoy. Or like, well, then it's going to be sweet, right? It is candied, ergo it must be sweet, which of course I understand why that happens. But I think that this wine is a perfect example of both candied fruit and definitely not sweet, both happening at the same time, right? And some really nice structure to it. Katie is asking, if you order the bear wine, will we know what that means? Yes. Yes, you could also ask for Camino. If you don't want to remember all of those words, you can remember Camino and we will know what you mean. So yes. Yes, for sure. Questions, thoughts? How do you guys like it? What are we feeling? You're split. Some of you like it more than others. It is very interesting, right? I think that's my perfect way of saying it. You enjoy the Australian one a little more, but this is more interesting and complex. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that like different wines for different times, right? The Four Monos is actually 14.5. So it's the booziest of the bunch. But unlike the Yalumba, I don't feel like you'd glug it down too quickly. I don't think. But it is very interesting. And I think it's going to be so beautiful. You're saying that it is changing as you're eating your cheese plate. I think like it's going to change as you have it with food. I do think it's for me, it's on the gluggable side of complexity. So I think that sometimes there are wines that are so complex that like I really feel like I have to study them, or like I have to like really sit and think about it and really appreciate it. And it's just like, it just has like just enough fruit for me. Like I'm like, I could just drink that. So I think it kind of depends on, what you like and what you tend to drink. Jake, I'm really glad that you like this wine. Yay. I'm glad. Is anybody like, no, thank you? I don't want that. Keep the Four Monos away from me. It's okay. I didn't make the wine. The Four Monos refers to 4 friends. They are the 4 little monkeys there. They are 4 friends, 3 men and a woman. They have been in the wine industry in Spain in varying capacities, and they are doing this project and then something called Envinate that we've had from time to time. Again, like super small producer or super small production on those wines, but Envinate when it comes in. So they're just kind of, I don't know, cool people doing good, interesting stuff. It feels to me like there are people who use the natural wine label for false cachet, to be able to pat themselves on the back. And then there are winemakers who are like, well, no, like that's just like how it makes sense to do it. Or like, yeah, we couldn't get a tractor up into this vineyard, even if we wanted to. So we have a horse, but we just have a horse because like, it's easier. We have the horses. I think there's something kind of intriguing and interesting about that kind of stuff. Questions before we move to France? Okay. All right, y'all. Let's go to France. Who doesn't want to go to France? I mean, I'd go back to Spain happily. Or Australia, really, I'm desperate to travel. Can you tell? Okay, so what we want to know about France. While Garnacha kind of grew in abundance in Spain, it was only in France where it started to be more serious. I'm using lots of air quotes tonight. Pardon me. I apologize for that. So while it was readily available, it wasn't necessarily taken very seriously because there was so much cheap, fruity, meh Garnacha. And we're talking like a long, long time ago. This is not recent history. So the grapes, they kind of, in theory, came from Italy to Spain, or was in Spain to begin with, and then came eastward to France, where Grenache settled in kind of the southeastern part of the country. So the Rhone Valley, Languedoc-Roussillon, and Provence. Those are kind of the main key important regions for Grenache in France. With French Grenache, the fruit definitely takes a back seat. So even though Grenache is a fruity grape, you get kind of all the other things: herb, spice, earth, minerals. Those kind of are way more prominent in French wine. It's not as warm, particularly in the Rhone Valley. It's not nearly as warm in the Rhone Valley as the two other places that we've visited. So you're going to definitely get a more savory side. I have some words to kind of like trigger in case you like this style. Things like, these are wine words that I think sometimes people are like, I don't know what that means. Elegant, structured. Somebody might even say pretty. I might even say pretty. Those kinds of words are kind of talking about this kind of style. So yeah, I was getting to the variety breakdown. So the breakdown here, this is actually the least Grenache. So we started with the most and are ending with the least. This is 65 Grenache, 35 Syrah. It is very, very rare to see 100% Grenache really anywhere in France. The French, outside of some pocket, or, you know, outside of the Loire Valley and Burgundy, the French love blending. They love it. They think it's what they are the best at in the world. They pride themselves on their ability to blend grapes together and get a wine that is ever so perfectly balanced. So that's why it's not that common to find a Rhone that's 100% Grenache. In Bordeaux, you know, it's not that common to find something that's 100% Merlot or 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. You can, you know, you absolutely can, but it's not as readily available. So I thought that this was a more realistic French Grenache to give you than, you know, I don't know. It's another one. So what do you guys think? Oh, and from a food pairing perspective, it is such a good, we just brought this in just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago at this point. It's so good with braised meat. I know it's really, really lovely and warm out right now, but it is November in Wisconsin and it is going to get cold. And so I brought this in. I was like, this is like a winter wine. Okay, Kristen and Patty are picking up on the fact that it's much darker in color. It is, and I would say that is probably its friend, Syrah, having something to say about the color. Potting soil, I love that. Love it. I love, love, love. Mint compost, oh my gosh, I love it. Floral, yep, I'm with you guys all 100%. These are the vines at Guichard. So these are the Grenache, this is the Grenache vineyard at Guichard. So you can see this is a much more traditional style of vine. So gone are the bushes. So I just thought it was kind of cool. Like as I was looking at pictures for class, I thought, oh, how interesting that each of the three wines grows in such like different style. Yeah. I'm like loving the potting soil tasting note. Mm-hmm. Matt thinks it smells like metal. I can see that. Like steel. Mm-hmm. Walking into the gardening section at Home Depot. I love that. Nathan just combined those things for you. It's both the metal shelving and the potting soil. it's all there together. This might be the smell of summer camp. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I love that because to me, it's like, here's what happens when I hear something like that. I think to myself, Matt is just smelling the wine. Right? Just like smelling the wine, thinking of what it reminds him of, and just like saying it, which I adore. I think that that's like wine appreciation at its very best. It's not highfalutin and it's not trying to be pretentious. It's just like, what does this remind me of? Why do I know this smell? And also, like, I've never gone to summer camp, but like have a concept of it. And like, it just, I don't know, that just took me somewhere for a second when you said that. I just think it's great. I just think it's great. I'm glad I'm making his night. Mm-hmm. So it's not completely devoid of fruit. I think there is some fruit there. I would say more tart fruit than we've seen up to this point, you know. The palate matches the nose very closely. Yeah. I would agree. And I think that you point out that the Spanish wine is like night and day. Like what you smell and what you taste are like, whoa, what is happening? Whereas this is like relatively similar. Kristen and Patty are saying that you get some fruit on the palate that you didn't get in the aromas. And I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't pick up on a lot of fruit when I'm smelling. Not really, you know. I would probably go with like a blanket black fruit kind of thing, because I'd be like, wow, there's some fruitiness to it because it's wine. But I do think on the palate you get a little bit more fruit, but still nothing like our first two. But definitely some good tannins. It's not quite as shocking and chalky as the Spanish, but it definitely, so when I was on the previous slide, I had the word structured. This is exactly what I was talking about. The idea of structure is where the tannins give you the spine, and then the all the flavors and aromas kind of like build the body around it. Not like the body of the wine. I apologize for maybe making that more confusing with that analogy, but yeah, just those tannins kind of give it, it's the scaffolding, I guess, right? There's something there. And I do think that this has it really beautifully. This is interesting things about this wine. It's a female winemaker, which is not that common. Well, it's not that common. I can just stop there and then I can say it's not that common in France. And it's also biodynamic. The winery is biodynamic certified. I don't see the certification on the wine label. So they must have just decided not to pay for the biodynamic certification, but the wine is biodynamic. So also added bonus if you care about that kind of stuff. And even if you don't, it's $13 Côte de Rhône that is not made with anything artificial in it. So that's good. Is this characteristic of Côte de Rhône? It is. It is. I think that there are other, I could have chosen, I could have chosen from, whatever the half dozen or more Côte de Rhônes that we have at the shop and gone in a slightly different direction with each of them to kind of point out different things. And what I mean by that is like there are Côte de Rhônes that might be a little bit smoother than this. There might be Côte de Rhônes that are even more earthy, even more wet earth. I just tasted one last week that I would likely bring in at some point soon that really tasted like being at a potter's wheel, that kind of clay smell. But they are all kind of in this range where the fruit is never going to be the most prominent thing. They're going to have some more structure to them. Yeah. This is the first Côte de Rhône that you've really enjoyed. That means the world to me. I'm so happy. I love that so much. Interesting. Rhône is like my default setting. So I'm like, what? Great. I love it. I love to turn people on to the Rhône and Rhône that you like. I'm curious because we do have a few extra minutes tonight. What are people's rankings of favorites? I'm so curious. As long as we're, having elections and stuff. Give me numbers, guys. I'm going to have some water. I don't drink a ton of red wine. I don't really drink much red wine at all. So tannins always, I'm like, I need water. The order that you tasted, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2. Awesome. Oh my gosh, like so varying. This is so cool. I love it. I love it. We're all over the map, and I adore that. That is like, that means the world to me. I love it. Spain, France, Australia, France, Spain, Australia. Awesome. Oh, that's great. I just love it. I don't know how I would answer that question, so I won't ask myself. I don't have to answer that question. I am a super seasonal drinker, and my mood depends on like what I want to drink is like what we're eating and, you know, time of day and like all that stuff. Right. So I look at them and I'm like, well, it depends on what's happening in my life right now. So if you're just finishing one tonight, which one would it be? Which one will last the best for a few days? I think, so the ones that have the more tannins are going to last a little bit longer. So the Yalumba is going to be, I would say, probably the most delicious tonight, and kind of ideal for just drinking. I think it would be super cool to hold on to the Four Monos and see how it does change. I mean, if you think about how much it changed in however many sips you had of it, to see how it changes from tonight to tomorrow or the next day, I think that could be super cool. I can speak from experience that the Guichard lasts nicely for a few days. I've had it open for a few days. Which one should you do with your rack of lamb and mushrooms? This beautiful one. All of that good earthy savoriness. Yep, that's it. Lamb and Cote de Rhone are like, you know, a match made in heaven. 2, 1, 3 with 2 leading by a large margin. Oh, Jake, interesting. I love it. And you don't like 3. Fascinating. Good to know. Good to know. I'll make that note. And let's see, store room temp or in the fridge. So, I do not recommend storing wine at room temperature. If you store it at room temperature, it's going to go bad quickly. If you are the type of people who 3 bottles of wine is good, like you'll drink that between now and tomorrow when you go to bed, I think it's fine if you leave it out at room temperature. It's not the end of the world. If you want your wine to last a few days for one reason or another, and you need it to last, I would say stick it in the fridge. I know that some people are going to be like, oh my God, did she just say put red wine in the fridge? And I'm going to say, yes. It's fine. It's fine. And it will last you a number of days. So that would be my recommendation. Okay. I don't really know what's happening with the last 2 comments there. I'm not 100% clear where I am. And can you come over for that rack? Don't know what that means. I don't know, guys. I don't know what that means. So either you can clarify or maybe Kristen and Patty. Okay, I was like, maybe that's not meant for me. That's kind of what I thought. I was like, I don't think that's intended for me. Okay, so, there we go. Okay, sorry, guys. See, I told you. I was like keeping it together, and now it's 5 o'clock, and like it's like that was as much concentration as I had for the day. Sorry. I really love that you all liked different wines. I really love that. It brings me so much joy when we have the time to see what everybody kind of gravitated towards. It's fine when the class all likes the same wine, but it kind of like almost, I don't know, it feels like disappointing. It feels like I didn't hold up my end of the bargain for me, because I'm like, no, I want different people to like different things for different reasons. So I love that. So thank you so much. Thank you for celebrating with me and all of these beautiful Grenaches. We are doing Beaujolais class, which I'm super excited about. It's 2 Thursdays from now. I've never taught it before. I love Beaujolais. If you want to see me give all the jazz hands in the world, join me for a Beaujolais class. And then I believe it's 3 weeks from now, we're doing blind tasting again, and it's going to be white and reds. So if you were able to join us before for that, or you've never done it before, it's so fun and it'll be great. I think I'm going to go drink some champagne with my friends. We formed a group 4 years ago to help us get through everything together. And so we normally get together every Wednesday. And tonight we put out the call and we're like, hey, we're going to get together after I'm done working and we're going to have champagne. So thank you guys. I'm also so excited for Beaujolais. Thank you guys so much. Go team. Bye, everybody.